Hello and welcome to another SHM movie breakdown and review, and in this particular breakdown we are discussing, as you'll have seen of course from the title, the 1979 horror and sci-fi classic Alien, directed by Ridley Scott, one of the most prolific pop culture creatures of all time, one of the best and most widely loved movie creatures or monsters of all time, and one of the best female lead roles, played of course by Sigourney Weaver as Ellen Ripley. Now this film only stars 7 people, not including the alien, and those are played by Tom Skerritt, Sigourney Weaver, Veronica Cartwright, Harry Dean Stanton, John Hurt, Ian Holm and Yaphet Kotto, plus the alien. And the alien is the star of the show, exactly as it should be. A lot of horror films, especially newer ones, make the mistake of thinking that we care for the people. We don't. We're not there to see the people. There are people who would try to tell you otherwise, and having characters that you can root for and want to survive is of course an important part. But that's not why you're there. You're there to see the creature. You're there to see the monster. You're there to see the alien. And if that fails, the whole movie will. Because as important as the characters are, that's just not why you're there. Because if you're there purely for the characters' interactions, you might as well watch a drama. The whole point of a horror movie is to take people who you root for and put them up against a formidable opponent. So if that opponent fails, the movie will. Thankfully, the alien certainly does not fail. It is, as we mentioned before, an iconic creature, an iconic design. Everything about it is the very definition of the name of the movie. It truly is Alien. It's like no other movie creature before, since there have been some others that have imitated aspects of its design, the way it works, the way it moves, and in many ways the film itself. But when it came out, Alien was really like nothing else. Now, moving into our breakdown of the film into the 5 primary categories, first of all we have, of course, the story and plot. Now, the story is relatively simple for this film. It's a case of a crew in a situation that they can't escape from, and being stalked by a creature of some kind. So it's a simple premise, but what they do with the story and plot is very good, because you care for all of the characters. The creature is pretty much perfect. There's no CGI involved with the creature, it's 100% practical, and it's a brilliant mix of great characters and a great creature. The story itself may not be the most intellectually complex, but that's not really what you're there for. So, overall for the story and plot of Alien, I'm going to give it a 7, because it doesn't have the most tools to work with, but what it does with what it's given is fantastic. It's beautifully claustrophobic, slimy, dark, gritty, but at the same time it feels very real. The scenery of the film, especially the ship itself, which is of course the primary area that you spend the majority of the film in, feels very real. In the majority of sci-fi movies, films set in space or in the future, they feel very clinical. They're almost too futuristic, as though you kind of think people wouldn't live in that situation. It's just too stiff. It doesn't feel real, it doesn't feel authentic. Alien feels real, it feels authentic. The people look and act and talk and move in a way that looks like that is normal life for them. The ship looks lived in, it's dirty, it's grimy, it's like living, to some degree, in a garage of sorts. Everything is there that needs to be there. And that works brilliantly. The lighting of the film is fantastic. Now, as it happens, you could show the alien in broad daylight, and it would still look awesome. But using it in the dark is even more effective. Now, overall for that story and plot, as I said, I'm giving it 7 out of 10 because of just how good it is compared to what it's given to work with. Next, for our characters and their motivations, well, they are, again, very good. Now, in a very specific way, I would say they are very good, because they're not necessarily the deepest of characters. You don't really get any backstory into the characters, apart from that some of them care about money more than others, and that's about it. The characters, though, are very likeable, very easy to root for, and have, again, as I mentioned in my review of The Thing, realistic interactions. It doesn't feel like a movie, it feels like they're just ad-libbing. And that's awesome, whenever I see that in a movie. So, overall, for the characters and their motivations, I'm going to give Alien, again, a 7. Because they're not necessarily the deepest of characters, and their motivations are relatively simple, but at the same time, that's exactly what it needed to be. Because the focus of the film is, as the name suggests, the alien. Another reason why I'm giving it a 7, which may seem a little bit high considering what I've just said, is because of Sigourney Weaver's role as the lead. She is one of the most significant female roles and one of the most convincing female roles, or even non-female roles, in a survival situation in movies. So, it's a 7 again. As far as the visuals and effects, well, I've already mentioned, the creature is amazing. It was a handmade creature with incredible amounts of detail and effort put into it, and the overall look of the film in every way is fantastic. As I mentioned just now, everything looks lived in, it looks used, it doesn't look like a set, it looks like a real setting, a real ship, and even for its age, the film looks fantastic. For a 1979 movie, it is a brilliant looking film. The only aspect that lets it down in terms of the visuals and effects, I would say, is the interface of the computers. They do look dated, but apart from that, everything looks fantastic. So, overall, for the visuals and effects of the movie, I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10, because it really is brilliant, especially for its age. As far as the audio and music, it's great. Not just the soundtrack, but the audio in general is excellent. It's beautifully claustrophobic. Every noise is exaggerated because the rest of the film is so eerily quiet. And so when things actually do happen, they're exaggerated even more. You can almost feel the sounds in the movie. The sounds of the creature, the sounds of the ship, the sounds of the characters. You can hear everything very well, and the sounds are very effective. There's also a very minimal use of music, and that is highly effective. It makes it more eerie. So for the sound and general music, etc., I'm also going to give it a very high 9 out of 10, which is one of the highest I've given for a film so far. Finally, for the rewatchability and entertainment factor, which, as I've mentioned before on the channel, is always going to be the most subjective to me personally, because I can't speak for other people, I'm going to have to give it a 10. Because it's the kind of film that, no matter how many times you watch it, you enjoy it the same amount. You notice extra details about the environment, about the creature, about the characters, the little nuances between them when they interact, the way they treat each other, the way their emotions are relatively easy to see. Each character has a very distinct personality, and they're all, in their own way, very easy to root for. So overall, for entertainment and rewatchability, especially for a film of its age, particularly within the horror and sci-fi genre, which can very easily age in a bad way, it's done really well at not doing that. So it's a definite 10 out of 10 for that overall. So for our final tabulated score, Alien from 1979, in my book at least, gets an overall score of a very respectable 4.2 out of 5, which is seriously high, one of the highest scores of the channel so far. And my verdict for Alien is, well, most people have seen it by now, especially horror fans, but if by some chance you haven't got around to seeing the original '79 Alien movie, I would say 2 things about the film specifically. The first thing is, obviously, definitely try and check this film out. But secondly, I would say your hopes and expectations when going in to see the movie, especially now that so much time has passed from its release, is that you need to bear in mind the film's age. Now, I'm not saying that as an excuse, and as I said, the film holds up really well. But in order to truly appreciate just how good Alien is, you need to bear in mind that it is from 1979. Not, as I said, as an excuse, but purely because of what it accomplished for its age. That will really help you in the film to appreciate just how brilliant a horror film and a sci-fi film it is overall. But that's it overall for my breakdown and review of the original 1979 Ridley Scott film Alien. And that's it for this review. So I'll see you guys next time, and as always, thanks for watching.